Good evening. It's so great to see all of you. I am Tooele City Mayor Debbie Wynn, and I would like to welcome you to Tooele City's Meet the Candidate Night. First, we want to thank all of you that are in attendance tonight here at City Hall. And we are, of course, grateful for our candidates that are here behind us. We also want to welcome and thank Chris and Berna Sloan for being here because they are going to moderate and keep time for the event tonight, which is very important. We are on YouTube tonight, YouTube Live, so there are people, we hope, watching at home. And if they're not watching us live, they can go back and watch this later. So we are recording this event. We appreciate everyone's effort to get to know the candidates better and to be, gosh, that's a repeat, and to be an informed voter. I'm going to leave my script for just a second. For the last month, I have been meeting with school kids and talking to them about the Constitution. And it is so interesting how they are interested in voting and how that all happens. And so I have encouraged them, as I encourage you as adults who are voters. You can always sit back and complain about the elected officials that are not doing what you think they should be doing. But if all of you that could vote, which means 18 and above, that's it, 18 and above. If all of you voted, there may be different leadership in some areas. There could be. You hold the power. The Constitution is for the people, written for the people, by the people. So don't forget to go and vote. So I appreciate the candidates tonight who have chosen to provide public service, because this is a chance for them to make a difference in people's lives and improve our city. The outline for the evening will go as follows. First, we will all hear from Tooele City Recorder Michelle Pitt, who is going to share some general election information, as well as tell us about Tooele City's Proposition number 8 that's going to be on the ballot. After Michelle, the candidates will each be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves, followed by a question and answer period. Each candidate will be asked the same question, and each candidate will be given 90 seconds to answer each question. We have 6 candidates who are running for 3 city council seats. So good luck to all of our candidates, and we'll turn the time over to Michelle.
Okay, thanks. I want to also say thanks for coming. We're really happy to see so many here. So this is what the Tooele City ballot will look like. Oh, can you go back to that? So we have a portion for the federal offices for the U.S. House. Then we have the portion for the city council candidates, and they're sitting in order of how they are on the ballot. And then at the very bottom, there's a portion for Proposition number 8. And this is a question that Tooele City is asking of the voters. And we're asking if you agree that we should change the wording of the city charter, a very small portion in the city charter, regarding the appointment of the city recorder. As it is now, the city recorder needs to be reappointed every 2 years. And if this passes, the city recorder would serve without limitation of time and in accordance with the city's policies and procedures and with state law. So there's more information about Proposition number 8 in this voter information pamphlet. There's lots of copies out on the table, so please take one and find out all about Proposition number 8 and make sure you vote on that. So just general voting information. The ballots will start being mailed out on October 31st. And if you don't receive a ballot by November 3rd, then get hold of the county clerk's office. Our county clerk is here, and she's sitting in the back, Tracy Shaw. You must be registered to vote by November 13th. And here's how you vote. You can go in and do early voting from November 14th through the 17th from 12 to 4:30 each day at the county clerk's office. You can vote on at a drop box, and we have a drop box here at City Hall. There's one in Grantsville, Stansbury, at all the cities and towns at the major town centers. You can vote there up until November 21st. You can vote by mail, but they have to be postmarked by November 20th. And you can vote, or you can vote at a vote center from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on November 21st at the Tooele County building in the basement auditorium, or at Grantsville City in the fire station. If you'd like more information about the elections, you can go to www.tooeleco.org. You can go to www.tooelecity.org, or you can go to vote.utah.gov. Okay. I'm going to now move the microphone over to Chris Sloan, and he's going to start introducing. How do you want to do this?
Go in the same order. Thanks, Michelle. Good evening, all. Just a couple of quick ground rules, and they touched on them at the beginning. We're going to do it. Each of you will have 2 minutes to make an introduction statement. We will, again, go in the same order that your names appear on the ballot for all of these. There are a total of 6 questions that we'll be asking this evening. Each of you will have the opportunity to answer first, which also means you'll each have the opportunity to finish last. So the questions themselves, you'll get 90 seconds each to answer those. The beautiful woman to my left is keeping the time. At the 30-second mark, you'll see the yellow card. When your time is up, you'll get the red one, and nobody wants to see what happens after that. So what I'm going to ask for all of the folks in the audience, if you've seen Berna hold the card up for 10 or 15 seconds and they're not stopping, start clapping. That's the best way we can get them stopped. So at this point, unless you have any questions, let's get started. Mr. Parker, Mr. Ye, you guys are be able to see her okay?
Can you see this? Because this will count you down. If not, just pay attention to my 30-second thing.
Okay. Mr. Parker, why don't you go ahead with your 2-minute introduction?
Fantastic. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Take it over here. Okay, that's fine.
Testing. Yeah. All right. Perfect. There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First, thank you, Chris and Berna, Michelle, Mayor Wynn. Thank you all for coming out this evening. My name is Ryan Parker. I grew up in Orem, graduated from Utah Valley University. Then I moved to Salt Lake City, where I got involved in housing and homeless services for the last 10 years. My role has been trying to help individuals get leased up in the community with affordable housing, primarily individuals experiencing homelessness. After a few years, my wife and I, we settled here in Tooele a couple years ago with our 3 children, one on the way this March. Is very exciting. And when it came to this upcoming election, what was our thought was what I've always thought is public service. For 10 years, it's been my honor to serve in the community of Salt Lake to try to help individuals connect to resources, to a quality of life when it comes to affordable housing. And that's exactly what inspired me to run. I see the potential of this city and all the amazing things that we can do. So what are the platforms that I'm running on? Building strong towns. What does that mean? It means that I want to see a place for every Tooele resident to call home, a place that doesn't cost them 80% of their income, where they have to decide whether they're spending money on the rent or if they're spending money on gas. I want to unlock our commercial base to inspire entrepreneurs. And then I also want to ensure that our families and our children are able to have a quality of life. And what are the ways that we do that? For starters, we begin with zoning reform. Very simple. We don't have to worry about the federal government or the state government. We control the narrative here. We want to unlock zoning so that builders can build. We want to build splash pads for our children. If our neighbors in Grantsville can do it, so can we. And we want to see entrepreneurs flourish in being able to provide good classic American jobs. And I hope that this November 21st that I can have your support and your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Ye.
Hello, my name is Douglas Ye. I grew up here in Tooele City. I have 2 children in school here. I was drafted into running. A nice lady named Carrie Griffin called me up and said, "Would you like to run for local government?" And I said, "You're looking for my brother?" And then she called me back and said, "No, we want someone who grew up here with children here and you fit the profile." And I went, "Again, you're looking for my brother." But I went to the meeting and I talked to her and she had some very good points. And honestly, I decided to run when my daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, I'm afraid to go to school. I'm afraid to go outside. I'm scared for the news. Do something about it." So I decided to try to. And I also hate introducing myself. I don't know if you've ever done that, but it is really terrifying. Yeah? Do I have to keep going?
No?
That's it.
The shorter you go, the more votes you get. Mr. Hanson.
Good evening. So my name is Ed Hansen, and to introduce myself, I think most of you know me, but there's some of you that don't. I grew up in Tooele City, lived here for a long time. Won't tell you my age, but a long time. And my family had been part of the community for years, and my father did things with the city throughout the years. I have my wife Barbara and I have lived here forever. Like you said, we've been married almost 50 years. And we have 5 children and 16 grandchildren, and I've been on the city council for the last 4 years, and I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to do another 4 years. I'm a small business owner. I had an auto repair business for years in Tooele City, which we closed a couple years ago. But I also still run a taxidermy business in Tooele with several employees, and it's important to me to be part of that, so that small businesses can thrive in Tooele. There's lots of things to talk about, but there's housing. I got 16 grandchildren, and there's a housing crisis in our county, of course, and I think the cheapest home is about $400,000 to start with. And I don't think my grandchildren that are even married could buy that home. So one of my goals is to help with that. The other thing is water. In order to build more homes, we need water for them homes, and that's a big deal in Tooele County, in Tooele City especially. There's water out there to get. We just have to work together as citizens in our community as we try as a city council to make it happen and find ways to pay for that. But I'm excited to have the opportunity to run again, and hopefully I can count on your support. Thank you.
Ms. Gomez.
I can't see that, Berna, sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Melody Goches, and I'm excited to run for re-election to the Tooele City Council. I've enjoyed serving your interests for many years. I have worked on the grassroots level and enjoyed doing the city's work. I am currently serving on the Planning Commission. I have served on the City Council as an elected official for 4 years. I served at that time as chairman of the council for a year and 1 year as the redevelopment agency chairman. I've served as a volunteer on the Tooele City Arts Council as a volunteer and as the chairman of that. I have many years of experience with grant writing and public events, including booking concerts and entertainment for the popular Fridays on Vine concert series, 4th of July concerts, Christmas concerts, and Tooele County Fair concerts for over 12 years. I served on the Council of Governments, that's COG committee, and I was on the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 Commemoration Committee. So I can say that I have been busy serving this community for over 20 years. I'm a human resources specialist by trade. I work for the federal government remotely. I am a labor management employee relations specialist, and I have 38 years of service. I'm a lifelong resident of Tooele County. I've lived in Tooele City for over 40 years. I'm the mother of 5 children and 10 grandchildren, and my hobby is supporting my grandchildren in school and in sports and cheerleading activities. I am active in my church. I like to read, bike, and attend the gym. I bring the experience, knowledge, and skills needed for this position to hit the ground running. I'm a positive leader who understands the importance of cooperation and teamwork to achieve goals in government. I will appreciate your support and your vote in November. Thank you.
Mr. Graff.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here. It seems like it's more echoing now, but that's okay. Basically, what I would love for you to walk away knowing about me is that I care about our community. I've had the privilege of living here for 8 years, and what brought me here was, by profession, I'm a special victims prosecutor, and I was living in American Samoa, and we moved back here to Utah. And we wanted to move to a place that was small town, because prior to American Samoa, I lived in a town of 600 people in rural Nevada. It was a mining town, and I loved it. And we were 90 miles to the nearest Walmart and stoplight. And so Tooele wasn't quite like that. It has a Walmart, it has plenty of stoplights. But it is a town that I love. I love being here. Its greatest asset is the people. And as a member of City Council for the past 4 years, I've enjoyed listening to different perspectives. One of my priorities is public safety. It doesn't matter how good our town is, how good our schools are, how much housing we have, if it's not safe. I also understand the importance of housing. Having experienced different life experiences, I know what it feels like to try to get into a house and what it takes and how difficult it is and the lack of available, obtainable houses. I also want you to know that I'm invested in listening. In the past 4 years, I've tried to hear different perspectives and try to vote my conscience on my votes in City Council. And I hope to continue that. And I thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you. My name is Justin Brady. I am from Tooele City. I grew up here and graduated from Tooele High School. After graduating high school, I went on a mission for my church where I went to Houston, Texas, learned Spanish, and then I came home and went to college. I decided to go into the nursing profession and then advanced my degree and got an MBA in healthcare management. I currently work in Mount West Medical Center. I'm the director of Med-Surg and ICU. That's something I'm really proud of, to work locally in my community. I'm pretty confident I could go to Salt Lake and make a little bit more money, but I'm happy to work and serve in my community. I am married and have 5 children, ranging in age from 16, and my youngest just turned 2. Some of my hobbies are I enjoy traveling and really just spending as much time with my family as possible. I often get asked what I'm most proud of accomplishing during the 4 years that I've been in office. I'm currently serving as the chairman of the Tooele City Council. And some of the accomplishments that we've got done on the City Council in the last 4 years is we've created trails in our community. There's a trail that'll be done on England Acres. It runs from Drew Bay down to the England Acres Park. I've updated the general plan. A lot of the plans that we've had in our community were very outdated, and we've updated them, and we have a plan for the future. And that's something I ran on really hard, is preparing for the future. I wanted Tooele City to be a Tree City USA, and that was something I pushed really hard, and we now are a Tree City USA, and I expect that to improve our parks as we plant more trees. We reduced Tooele City's long-term debt significantly. We paid off a bond. It was a $4 million bond. We could have used that money other places, but we chose to reduce our debt instead. And then public safety, as Mr. Graff just spoke about, we gave officers raises, and we have a new fire department that is going to be built in the near future. If anyone has any questions, I'll be staying after, and please feel free to ask your questions if we don't answer them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you all for your introductions. Just a quick reminder, we will start the questioning in the order they appear on the ballot. You all get a chance to be first. You all get a chance to be last. You'll get 90 seconds to answer your question. Just so you're aware, these questions were furnished to us by the public. The public was able to get online and give us some suggestions, so that you're seeing the results of the interest of the public tonight. So, Mr. Parker, we're going to start with you. What do you feel is the most important issue in our community, and what would you do to create a positive result?
Housing. Absolutely, it's going to be housing because the decisions we make today impact generations tomorrow. When we want to decide how we are going to expand our businesses or what we're going to do for public safety, if no one is able to live here, what are we building for? So when it comes to affordable housing, again, there's many different aspects where we bring on developers as our partners while ensuring that our community is having these, that any new home built is the things that we desire the most. My experience lies in Salt Lake City. I was a member of the the Housing Trust Fund Advisory Board, where we made sure to advocate not only affordable housing, but deeply affordable housing to ensure that individuals that were our blue collar and our working class families were able to find homes in a downtown metro area. So it's always going to have to start and begin with housing because home is where the heart is. That is where everything starts. You can have the greatest schools, you can have the greatest cops, but if you do not have a place to hang your head up and if you don't have a place where you can affordably live, then people are going to just start looking elsewhere in the communities to go and move to. So it's going to start and stop with housing for me.
Thank you. And I should say, if any of you need me to repeat the question, please just let me know. Mr. Ye.
Could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. What do you feel is the most important issue in our community, and what would you do to create a positive result?
That is a weird question because everyone in the community has a different point. I'm living proof. If you live in your parents' house long enough, they will move out. So that question goes round and round like, to a homeowner, it's not housing, it's water rights, it's homeless people in their front lawn. To a young couple trying to buy a house, it's housing. I'd say that we need to bring up community standards and kind of get back to, instead of everyone screaming, this is what I need, this is what I need, to this is what we need, and bring everyone back together before we can honestly even answer that question.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, what do you feel is the most important issue in our community, and what would you do to create a positive result?
You know, I talked about it a little bit in my introduction about housing and about water, and that's the two things that I see are the most important thing for the growth of the future for our generations to come. You know, as a city council, we have been working on trying to change some of the codes and things to make the housing more affordable. Maybe changing some of the housing sizes. We've worked a little bit on that to make the housing more affordable for the people to come on, and so that's the kind of thing we got to do. We got to find ways that we can make it so our children, our grandchildren, and so on can do it. One other thing that could be part of that is bringing commercial growth to our city and bringing higher paying jobs to our city and close, so that as all of us need jobs, and as we continue to do that we can be successful that way, so we can afford housing also. Thank you.
Ms. Goches.
Thank you. I think the most important issue. Okay, no, that's gone. Thank you, Tony. I think the most important issue that we're facing right now is growth. Definitely, growth is a constant. It's something that we're going to have to deal with. Growth not only with residents moving in, but our own children. So we want to be able to provide a good quality of life for them. Along with that is that water is the most precious resource, and it's the responsibility of the city to ensure that we maintain this resource and develop more resources for our future growth. As a council member, I worked with the mayor and department heads to bring two wells into the city, the Barrow Well in Overlake and the Red Del Papa Well that is by the ballpark. I'm committed to bringing that water into the system. It let me know that because there are difficulties in paperwork and engineering to bring it into the water into our system, it hasn't been brought into our system yet, but I'm committed to that. I've also had the opportunity to meet with our state and local officials on creating a water district. I think it would be important for Tooele City, Tooele County, Grantsville, Stansbury to create a water district that will provide for the needs of the future. In order to do that, we're going to have to work cooperative, and we'll have the opportunity to apply for state and federal grants in order to bring water to Tooele. So Tooele definitely is an important issue. I do have options and situations to solve that problem. Thank you.
Mr. Grant. How would you feel is the most important issue in our community, and what would you do to create a positive result?
Well, I'm not going to break from the trend. I think it is growth in housing, and our growth is pushing our housing demand. But I'm going to present a little bit different perspective. To my friends in Car Fort, you may know of an annexation that was up, and I voted against that. Why did I vote against it? Because housing without proper guidelines isn't what we need. I voted against the annexation to bring in these houses because it increased our cost, it increased costs to our taxpayers for infrastructure, for safety. And I believe that there should be structure in how we get new housing. It has to be developed, it has to be planned, and it has to make sense as citizens as we look at it. It's not simply building because we can, it's building because we should, and following a guideline that makes sense. I don't want to build 10-story apartments. I want housing for different types of people in different types of their times in their lives. And that particular plan didn't work. My commitment is to continue to look at the options for housing. Is it appropriate? Is that the right place? Will it meet a need? And will it be something that's obtainable, not simply affordable? Because what affordable is for you may be different than what affordable is for your kids who are trying to move here. I try to take that perspective into play and look for appropriate housing options. Thank you.
Mr. Brady, what do you feel is the most important issue in our community, and what would you do to create a positive result?
Thank you. I agree with many of the candidates that growth is probably one of the biggest challenges that we have, but with that, I think it trumps everything is water. Without water, we can't have any growth, and we can't build these houses that our children need and your grandchildren. So what am I going to do about that, and what have I done is the next question, right? So we do have a master plan for water. We do have a plan where we know where we're going to get water, and we're constantly trying to get water. As Melody said, there's wells that we're putting on, and we're continuing to look for water in this valley, and eventually we'll have to look for water outside of this valley, probably in the Vernon Basin. That's a whole nother day's topic, though, because we could talk about water till we're blue in the face. But without water, we truly cannot build the community that we want. A big issue that I don't think has been touched on yet is conservation, water conservation. The city has already been taking steps to conserve more water. We passed an ordinance to reduce the amount of grass that can be put into park strips. Developers come in and they build houses, they put grass everywhere because it's cheap and it's easy. So we made so they can't just put that in a park strip. That'll help reduce water. And then Tooele City is also in the process of taking out the grass at our city hall and being more water conscious in that way and showing the residents that it can be done. So there's water there, but we need to learn to conserve and use that precious resource better. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Ye. What do you feel are the most important duties of this position?
I am apt to learn. Like, if you can go on Google, you can read all about what city councilmen do, but that doesn't mean you know what you're doing. I really feel like I'm a good choice for this because I don't really know what I'm doing. I am willing to learn. I am willing to find answers. And I am not jaded by the fact of being told, you can't do that. Why can't I do that? I don't know. I'm going to do it anyway. So, what was the question?
What do you feel are the most important duties of this position?
The most important duties of this position is learning and serving the public. Like, taking care of what people want. So, to be a town councilman, a city councilman, when you look that definition up, it gets very kind of murky of like, okay, you're going to set budgets and you're going to talk to people and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And everyone says, well, this is what we would like to do, but nobody says how to. So the most important thing for me is to learn how to do these things and then carry out the will of the people.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, what do you feel are the most important duties of this position?
Well, we're here to serve the people of our city. As we're on the city council, we need to communicate and be part of what the other citizens want, and be able to try and instill the things that they would like it to see in our city. Now, that being said, there's lots of things that are already happening in our city, and there's all kinds of infrastructure. There's the police and the fire and the and the different things, the roads and everything, and all of that is part of what we do as a city council to help make decisions what's best there for the city. But we're here as a city council to work for our citizens and to do the things we want, or not that we want, that they want. We're here to help the citizens, and as a city council, we work together to try and implement things that will be best for our community with their input. There's so many things that are part of that question, but thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Goches.
Thank you. I feel that the most important duties of this position is to meet the services that our citizens expect of us. As city council members, we need to have a commitment to be transparent and accountable with your dollars. We need to maintain and improve our essential municipal services such as water, sewer, and storm drain. We need to plan for the future growth through our general plan, as Justin mentioned, the infrastructure studies. This city council is data-driven. We have master drinking water study. We have a secondary water study. We have a transportation plan study. All of those things have been done by professionals to give us the help and the information that we need to be able to spend those dollars wisely and be able to prepare for our future. We need to maintain a qualified employee workforce and provide safe working conditions. We need to preserve and expand our existing businesses and seek new business to provide employment opportunities, and the city is working very hard at doing that. We need to develop and improve our city's parks and recreation facilities, strengthen communication and build partnerships and relationships with our citizens, our businesses, and organizations. So some of those important duties fall under as I said, the data-driven information that help to guide and lead the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graff, what do you feel are the most important duties of this position?
I think the ability to listen is important. It doesn't matter what I think, honestly. I serve as a representative of you all. So if I don't listen to you, am I even doing my job? And the answer is no. I have to be able to listen. I have to be able to look at something, read the packets. Sometimes they're hundreds of pages long, but my job is to read it, to become educated, and to be able to advocate for a position. And when it comes to a vote, being knowledgeable on that vote, but also being open to new information and new ideas. Equally important, and perhaps more so, is the ability to work with others. As a council, and I'm going to give a compliment to my fellow council members and former, and to Mr. Parker, Mr. Ye, I don't exclude you because I think you are reasonable human beings. But I want to say to my fellow council members, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with them. Not because we think the same, but we can talk. And if we disagree respectfully. Nothing stops a council more than infighting, more than the inability to communicate, to listen. I'm not going to vote against a fellow council member because they voted against me, because I know it's not personal. And that goes to listening to others. When someone gives me an idea I don't necessarily agree with, my job is to listen, to weigh it out, and to make a decision. I think those two are, in addition to so many others, really go far and makes a good council member. Thank you.
Mr. Brady.
I think my job as a council member is to make the hard decisions that set Tooele City up for the future, right? I've talked about planning a lot, and planning doesn't matter if we don't use that plan, right? One of the reasons I decided to run for city council is there was that significant tax increase. It was 80-something%, and I wanted to understand why that happened. And looking back, it's easy for me to look back and say the council didn't make the decisions they should have. But I think a lot of hard decisions were not made when they should have been made. And I'm the person, I'll do that. I'm not afraid to make difficult decisions. One time where we had to do that was, I think it was 2 years ago, when we were presented with the information from Mayor Nguyen and the administration about police officers leaving Tooele City. The only way that you can have police officers or more police officers and keep them in our city is to give them a raise. A raise means a tax increase, right? So we had a lot of discussions about what we should do, and the council, a lot of us were on the council that time, we had a lot of discussions about what was an appropriate level to raise taxes. No one likes to have their taxes raised, but it was the best thing for Tooele City, and it set Tooele City up in a position where we can have public safety. I'm not afraid to make those hard decisions, and I'll continue to make those hard decisions if I'm reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parker, what do you feel are the most important duties of this position?
Thank you. The most important duties are service and transparency along with responsibility. It is not about setting an own personal agenda. It's about recognizing the needs of the community and meeting the community where they're at. The second I decided to run, I started meeting folks in their businesses, at their homes, and started discussing what is it that we are looking at wanting to have done. It's about making sure that we are responsible with how we do taxation. When we see, again, as was alluded to before, when we have people kick the can down the road, sooner or later, someone's going to have to pay the piper, and now we're all paying for that. I mean, we all have been seeing the tax increases, so what is going to be the future of our tax policy in this city? Because we cannot just keep on asking the citizens to carry the water for bad policy decisions. We have to be transparent in what we are doing and how we are doing it, and always keep in mind service, that this isn't about moving on to another rung of the ladder, but to provide a commitment to this city and then pass off the reins to the next person that's willing to serve. And that's what I will continue to provide, and what I look forward to providing, with given the opportunity to be transparent, responsible, and to serve this city strong.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, you start this one. Taxation has all of a sudden come up in the last few seconds here. So what are your feelings when it is appropriate and inappropriate to raise taxes? What could the citizens be able to expect of you when it comes to taxation?
Well, my mic's off. Okay, here we go. Taxes, it's always a tough question with me, and I feel differently than a lot of them people do about raising taxes. Ultimately, I'm not for raising taxes. That's the last resort. But it is necessary at times, as we've learned over the years. The city works on a budget just like you do at home. It's just a different amount of money. And as we go through the things that the city needs and that are required to make our city function, so it's in a good way for our city and the things that our citizens desire, and also the things that are here to protect our citizens. We need to have the money to do that. So as we have the help from the city staff, as we balance our budget and try to do that, that's the help to determine if we need a tax increase or not. This year, I voted against a tax increase. We still moved on with the tax increase, but that was because as I talked with staff about the money for this year, that they thought that we were okay, and that's why I voted against it. Tax increases are going to happen. We just got to do our best for our citizens to keep them as low as possible, but to have the services we need. Thank you.
Ms. Goches, what are your feelings on when it is appropriate or inappropriate to raise taxes, and what would the citizens be able to expect out of you when it comes to taxation?
Thank you. I am committed to keeping residents safe by supporting our police, our firefighters, and our first responders. In 2018, I worked with the mayor and council in support of funding the new police station. And we took a bold step in raising taxes in order to fund the police station on Garden Street. At that time, taxes had not been raised in Tooele City in over 30 years. I voted in favor of that. It was a prudent decision because 2 years later, we had a 5.7 magnitude earthquake in Tooele City. It damaged a lot of businesses. It damaged the Tooele City Police Department on Main Street. It was deemed unsafe. We were 2 days from taking occupancy of the new beautiful public safety building. And so our employees were able to move their equipment and office into that building without an interruption to our services. And that was through the foresight of our mayor and our citizens. And they voted in favor of that tax increase. While serving on COG, I participated with the Stockton mayor who asked for a feasibility study for the South Valley Fire District. Tooele City also partnered with a fire study, and as the result of that is a new fire station, and the groundbreaking was on Saturday. That's a big deal. And we are very blessed to be in this community that support one another and see the need and take initiative when it's required. So thank you.
Mr. Graff, what are your feelings on when it is appropriate or inappropriate to raise taxes? What would the citizens be able to expect out of you when it comes to taxation?
Thank you. I think if I wanted to win re-election, I would say I'd never raise taxes. And I say that in jest to a degree, but I'm serious about that because everybody wants to hear you're not going to raise taxes. But when you have 7% inflation, when the cost of business is 7% higher to do the very same thing. You can't go negative 7%. There has to be a way to balance it. But I want you to know that raising taxes for me is a very difficult decision, and here's why. Because when I look at that decision, when I look out on truth and taxation, when I see people come up and plead not to, it draws me upon my own life experience. I know what poverty is. I know what living paycheck to paycheck feels like. It is not lost on me. To those who are on fixed incomes, it is difficult for me to make those decisions. And you didn't elect me to make easy decisions. You elected me to make hard ones. And raising taxes is hard. And I better be able to justify raising taxes. There better be a good reason. Public safety, infrastructure, our community. I'm not going to do it gratuitously just because I have nothing better to do. I'm going to do it at a cost, knowing that it will hurt somebody. But it's necessary. And that's why I'm here, to make those hard decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you. Taxes are always one of the most difficult topics, and I think a lot of the candidates have already stated my feelings about it. I think it's after studying the reason that we need to raise the taxes that we do that. I touched briefly on why we did that, to give police officers a raise so that we could keep them in our community. The most recent tax increase was to build a fire station. We had a fire study done that showed that we were very inadequate in our fire department. Our city continues to grow, but the resources haven't grown with that over the last several decades. So when I got on the city council, my goal was to make sure that we had that tax base that we need, and that what brings up my next topic is that we have an imbalance in our community where we have so many houses. They receive not a discount, that's not the right word, but they don't pay 100% of the property taxes, but a business does. So that's where the imbalance is we have so many residential houses and we don't have enough commercial business. So that's where I'm going to improve that. I'm going to bring more businesses to our community, and I've done that during the last 4 years. The Industrial Depot is a great example of that. Tooele City, the RDA, the redevelopment agency, has a lot of property that we're planning to develop, and that'll bring a better tax base to our community so the residents don't have to pay as much of a tax. So we have to flip that, and the only way to do that is to bring businesses that pay our residents well. Thank you.
Mr. Parker, what are your feelings on when it is appropriate or inappropriate to raise taxes, and what can the citizens be able to expect out of you when it comes to taxation?
Absolutely. After 30 years, it's absolutely appropriate to raise taxes. That's just prudent and fiscal responsible right there. Where it's not appropriate is when we are not looking at ways to increase value-added services, when we feel that we have to raise taxes simply for the sake of raising them. Now, when we have inflation, when we have these issues, then yes, we're all adults here, we're all hardworking, we understand the two certainties in life. But what I find to not be responsible would be, for example, if we needed a raise. No, we don't. We're here to serve the public. We don't need to line our coffers or our pockets ourselves. So what they can expect from me is absolutely, as has been stated before, if we're talking absolute emergencies when it comes to our infrastructure and our first responders, those are kind of no-brainers. But again, if we're saying, well, this year we want to increase this budget for X reasons, again, the whole point of taxation is just to ensure that our services are functioning. If it's going to be an issue of if we don't raise taxes, we're no longer going to have garbage contracts, and that's not going to fly. Because again, what it comes down to is, do we need to raise taxes for something the city can do, or is it something that we can have a private contractor do for at less cost than that? So that's what they can expect from me, is to look more into public and private partnerships, because as a public servant for the last 10 years with the Housing Authority, we do not operate on profits. We operate on the budgets that we have, and we have to make do with what we got.
Mr. Ye, what are your feelings on when it's appropriate or inappropriate to raise taxes, and what can the citizens be able to expect out of you when it comes to taxation?
I think it's appropriate to raise taxes when all other revenue streams have been exhausted. It's unreasonable to try and run something without money. I put it in cooking terms because I've been in the culinary industry for the last 30 years. you have to raise your menu prices to pay your employees, or you have to cut back on your ingredients. If you cut back on the quality of your ingredients, you're going to end up losing your customer base anyway. But when I talk about taxes, I want you to know I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work at Amazon for 10 and a half hours a day to come home, and I can honestly say these people did an amazing job in a tough circumstances to raise the taxes. Was I happy about it? No. Did I understand it needed to be done? Yes. And that's what you can expect to me, is to follow what our senior staff recommends, unless there's absolutely 100% like I disagree with it. But we have leadership for a reason. We have seasoned members of the staff. We have newer people coming in. Ooh, I got the yellow card. And for me, you can expect me to learn for the first 6 months, to act on the next 6 months, and for the next 3 years to be a complete and total pain in the ass.
Thank you. Next question for you, Ms. Goches. Knowing that water resources are a concern, what is your opinion about growth and annexation?
Shut my microphone off. Water and annexation. In 2019, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints announced that they were going to build a Tooele Valley temple. We didn't know what the location of that temple was going to be at that time, but as talks progressed, the church and the Tooele City started to talk. It was decided that that location would be at Erta. We knew that there was a resident in Tooele, Sister Grimm, Maxine Grimm, who had said that she wanted to donate property in Tooele City, and so we were planning and preparing for a possibility that it would be located here. The decision was made that it was not going to be in Tooele. It was going to be on the intersection of SR 36 and Erta Way. Well, during that time, Erta residents were in discussion for incorporation of their own city, and they were going to take large land masses. The city was able to provide water, sewer, and storm drain for the church, and the church requested annexation into Tooele City. That was a swath of land that went north of Home Depot, clear down to the church farm. We had 12 landowners that requested annexation. The difficulty with that was to provide the services for that amount of growth. We do have experience with annexation. There is a multi-step process in order to consider the impact that it brings to Tooele City, not only the cost to our city to provide those services, but what a benefit will it be to the city. So there were, thank you, I just got the red card, but we do have a lot of experience with annexation and requests to annex into Tooele City.
Thank you. Mr. Graff, knowing that water resources are a concern, what is your opinion about growth and annexation?
Well, growth is inevitable. And I think one of the high marks of Tooele City is people want to move here. If people didn't want to move here, then we're doing something wrong. And this is a place people want to go. So we accept that there's going to be growth. But how do we manage it? We don't have, water is a finite resource. There's not a lot of it, and it's actually a stopgap on growth. If you don't have water rights, you can't build. I think that's an appropriate thing, so that's not just infinite building until we're bursting at the seams. What for me, in regards to annexation, is I am cautious about it because I look at our downtown. I look at these vacant lots that could be infilled, that we could build out where we have. Why annex to incur additional costs to build infrastructure if we have plots of land within our city appropriate that already have infrastructure planned for? Why not fill those first? Why not fill those lots that are needing to be built out? I think that's our priority. We need to weigh what we have before we bring in more, especially since we don't have additional water. So I will always be cautious in looking how we build. And looking at what we are building, water conservation, as Councilman Brady stated, that's important. If we have limited water, let's make sure what we build conforms to buildings that are conservative in the use of their water. Let's make the most of what we have. Thank you.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you. I briefly touched on water and conservation and things like that. Water is one of the most precious resources that we have in this valley and in the entire state of Utah, right? Water is not going away. It'll be, my whole life will be talking about water and what we're going to do with it. So what have I done as a city council member? We've really focused our water resources on commercial development, as I talked about previously, that we need to flip that tax base, right? And we want to bring commercial business into our community. So as a city council member, I've supported, that's how we're attracting businesses, is we're giving them a little bit of water for them to bring their business here. It increases our tax base, and it provides high-paying jobs for our community. One of the most recent ones we've had is Letner Poma. I believe they had a groundbreaking today. It's going to be over by the Tooele Tech building, Utah State building, over in that area. And they're going to be high-paying jobs. It's going to create more jobs for us, and it increases our tax base. So we're using water appropriately in that way by bringing businesses to the community. Annexation is always a tough topic to talk about. I was in favor of the annexation on Drew Bay Road because I felt like it brought the houses that we need in our community. Developers are always wanting to build townhouses and apartments, but this developer was different. He wanted to build like a move-up house for some of the people who can afford that right now, which is not a lot of people, unfortunately. But I did support the annexation, but it was after a lot of thought, and I felt like it would improve our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parker, knowing that water resources are a concern, what is your opinion about growth and annexation?
With annexation is, if it makes sense, it makes sense. What is the contribution that it's bringing to Tooele? When we're talking about commercial bases, or if we're looking at, are we going to be expanding USU and our educational sector here in this city? When we talk about development, it's what is going to be the resources needed to provide it. If we're talking townhomes, and if they have their own water rights, are they bringing that contribution to the city? So with annexation, just like anything else, it's just being mindful of the contribution that it has molding into it. When we talk about the annexation on Drew Bay Road, I believe, reading it, that they had water rights. So it seemed to me that it was just an apparent, just good move of bringing more people into the fold, and again, providing more access and opportunities to housing. But of course, annexation is always going to be the prioritized for, when we talk about the Church of Latter-day Saints, they bring their own resources as well with them. So if we are looking at annexing and especially conserving water, is who's going to be our partners in this? If you're going to come into Tooele City, let's partner together. It's very simple. If it makes dollars, it makes sense.
Thank you. Mr. Ye.
Honestly, I haven't thought about it. It hasn't been one of those things that keeps me up at night. What I have thought about is there are at least 7 houses on my block that are for sale. And by the way, every time you guys say Drew Bay, you're cracking me up, because in Tooele we call it Drew B. But that's one of the things I was talking about. I don't have a lot of interest in annexation because I work at Amazon and I raise 2 teenagers. I would love to know more about the subject and know, like, how does that affect me? I know they're putting houses on Drewby because I live on Antelope. Annexation by ERDA, it doesn't make any sense. Like they were saying, it doesn't make any sense to say we have these 4 spots that are already set up, but by all means, let's go over here, cut down virgin resources, and spend more money. So I think follow the leader kind of on that one, but I think my general idea is let's not do it unless we have to, or let's think about it.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, water resources are concerned. What is your opinion about growth and annexation?
Well, water is the big issue, and we can't grow in this community unless we have water for the citizens to have for their homes and the businesses so that's the most important thing for the growth and annexation. Now, there's water out there. There's developers that own water rights that count towards what the city has for total water, and there's opportunities to bring other water to the city, from bringing the wells online that Melody talked about, that they've been working, and they're about ready to be online, to more wells that are happening, to the water from the other communities. That water needs to happen for the community to grow. A lot of our water rights are committed to the Over Lake area through the lawsuit that was from there, so that affects what we can do as a council and as a community. I also, like Justin, was for the annexation over on Drew Bay Road. And I've lived here all my life. But anyway, but I was for that annexation. But they were bringing their own water to the community. They was moving up a little bit on their housing, and so I was for that. But as a council, it was voted down, and I supported that also. So like Tony said, we worked together. But there's a lot to think about when it's there, but we need water somehow brought to our community so we can continue on with growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graff, I'm going to start with you this time. Tooele City has very bad traffic on Main Street. What will you do as a city council member to improve traffic in the city?
That's a great question. You only need to go down Main Street around 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock to know that we've got a problem. And I think what's important to know is, and it goes back to a larger issue, which is planning. How is our city being planned? If we are building huge complexes right off the main artery, is that going to cause a problem? And the answer is yes. So for me, what I look at is when we get a new development is looking at traffic studies. Are we taking into consideration the resource of roads? And how is that going to affect traffic? How is it going to affect if you're turning in? Is that going to slow down traffic? Using kind of common sense as somebody who drives on that road. Another thing that we can tap into is our public transportation. I used to take the bus from Tooele to downtown Salt Lake, and it was so nice to jump on a bus and let someone else worry about it. I think there's an educational aspect of letting people know there are additional options for that. And also looking at how we're building out the outer side of our community. Mid-Valley Highway is an example. That relieves traffic, and looking for solutions on how we handle our existing traffic issues and how we're developing. Thank you.
Mr. Brady.
Thank you. Traffic is one of the most difficult things that we have control over on the city council. Let me explain why. So State Road 36 is UDOT. The Utah Department of Transportation is who manages that road. And then we have a rail that runs directly through the middle of town, Union Pacific. There's agreements in place that prevent us from, we can't cross Union Pacific at certain areas because of agreements that are already in place. And UDOT has so much control over how the community is because that's our main corridor in and out of town. So we need to continue to work with UDOT. Mayor Nguyen works very well with them, and I know she has them on speed dial and talks to them often. Another thing that we've done is we've really pushed hard for 2400 North to be finished. That is where Deseret Peak High School is being built. We want the school district to finish that road to put a little bit less traffic on State Road 36. That road won't be finished completely, but when it is, the developers, that's a whole nother discussion as well, but developers help build infrastructure, right? And once that road's complete, that'll help take off a significant amount of traffic on State Road 36. It'll push everything west. I think the county needs to continue to consider Drew Bay Road, Drewby, whatever we want to call it, and that needs to be a main corridor. We talk about the Mid-Valley Highway, that's decades down the road before we really see anything with that. But I think we're on the right track. We're trying to address this problem, but it is a difficult problem to address. Thank you.
Mr. Parker, what will you do as a city council member to improve traffic in the city?
Follow the traffic studies and follow the best practices where we're developing and how we're planning. We want to create more of incentives to be walking to our schools, to walk to our jobs, to walk to the mart. Now, of course, that's not always going to be practical. We're not going to be downtown Salt Lake and just be one of those 15-minute cities or whatnot. People are going to need to go to the grocery store, and they're going to need their cars to do that. But it doesn't mean that that's where it has to fall. I remember, what was it, not too long ago, Fiesta Days or something, but we closed, like the city closed off some areas, and everyone is walking around, and everyone's able to go and venture our small businesses. They're able to walk to here to there. They don't need vehicles. And of course, the little small details of the roads that we do own, so we don't have to always call Mayor Nguyen to reach out to UDOT all the time. We can start adding just little small, different signs that are going to promote walkability, improving our sidewalks. That's going to be another thing too, because if you're having a hard time, especially people that have accessibility issues, they're not going to want to take their wheelchair down sidewalks that are blocked off and things like that. So we want to promote walkability in our commercial areas as best as we can.
Thank you. Mr. Ye, what would you do to improve traffic in the city?
I would ask the major employers in the county, like Detroit Diesel and out on the base, and them to stagger their start times. If we could give them some kind of incentive to do that, then you reduce the amount of people trying to get to one point at the same time. And next, I would just find a way to put in more roads, because realistically, that's what's going to have to happen in order to reduce the traffic.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson.
So, reducing traffic in Tooele. There's lots of things going on trying to do that. The county's working on a Drewby Road program to try and do that. So as a council, we need to be in support of that, I believe, to try and get that through so that there's a different way out of town. The Mid-Valley Highway, if we can get all the semis and the big trucks and the construction vehicles going that way, that's going to help. The busing deal is a big deal, Tony, and I agree completely. As you drive up and down Main Street, as I do and go to work, which I'm just going to work right here on 1100 North, most of the cars have one person in them. And so encouraging people to get together and ride in the different places, and either public transportation or carpooling or something like that's going to help. There's no quick fix for it. We got to get our roads so there's more ways in and out. Unfortunately, if we had more commercial in Tooele, we could stay. More people could stay, and I think that will happen with time. But, when 50% of your population works in Salt Lake, that creates a problem. So there's lots of things to work on. I would just, as a city councilman, try to help approve them things and get them things happening within our community.
Ms. Goches.
Thank you. Tooele City has a transportation master plan that's intended to serve as a guide to prepare for growth with many of the residential and commercial developments and future opportunities. There are a high number of residents that are traveling out of the city to commute to work. Although COVID changed the way we do business, COVID allows for people to work from home, and it's proven to be successful. So that is one solution. Tooele studies the roadway network that are categorized into a system and given a functional classification that are based on right-of-way width. There are 5 major road classifications. Number 1 is our principal arterial road, arterial, a major collector, a minor collector, and local streets. And Tooele City determines what level of service they each require in our budget in order to service those. The state legislature ordered that we create some affordable housing and some solutions with SB 34. Tooele City adopted 7 out of 20 of those elements, and one of those was to create walkable developments with high density that allow people to live and walk where they need to shop. I did attend the Mid-Valley Highway open house that was at our public safety building. That was interesting to be able to see what the plans are for the future and the opportunities for growth and development that it's going to open up. Tooele City did complete the 7th Street connection by England Acres. That road had been closed for a long time until funding was available. That was a big plus for Tooele City. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to our last question, and a fun one at that. Mr. Brady, we're going to start with you. Why did you decide to run for this position, and what makes you the best candidate for this position?
I briefly talked about why I decided to run. I wanted to understand why the decisions were being made the way that they were. It was that significant tax increase when I started coming to city council meeting, and then there was other things I wanted to see done in my community. I wanted to see more trees in our parks and more green space and things like that. I think a big reason I do it is so my kids someday can enjoy Tooele. I want my kids to live here. I think most of us want our kids to live close by us, right? My campaign 4 years ago, my motto, I guess you could say, was Tooele, a hometown to be proud of. I'm proud to live in Tooele, and I want to make my community a better place. I think I'm the best candidate because I understand the issues that we're facing, and I'm not afraid to make those difficult decisions. There's been many times when I was first on the council, one of the council members pulled me aside and he said, I don't think we've had as many nay votes or no votes, or we've had more nay votes in the last year than we've had in the last 10 years. And when he told me that, I was kind of dumbfounded, like, why? Why were people not questioning things more? I'm not afraid to vote against things if I don't think it's the best thing for Tooele City. Every decision I make is to provide a better community for each of us to live in, to provide a community that we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Mr. Parker, why did you decide to run for this position? What makes you the best candidate for position?
I decided to run for this position for public service because it's something that's been a core value of mine my entire life. Because my wife and I are wanting to raise our children so that they're able to choose to live here if they so desire. Because we see the need for affordable housing that is so desperately wanted. We see the challenges that this community faces, and we know that we have the ability to do something, that we can have a vision and that we can put in the steps to achieve it, that we don't have to be locked in with bureaucracies and malaise, but we can actually actually be bold and have a vision to chase after something. When we talk about doing something for our children, developing splash pads, when it talks about spurring our innovators by eliminating parking minimum so that they can develop the kind of commercial businesses that they want to instead of what they have to, where we think that what makes us, or excuse me, my wife and I, we partner, so when I say us, I always speak for us because I do always make sure to consult with her. What makes me the best candidate is that I have the experience. I've worked in public service in the public sector for 10 years when it comes to tackling the toughest issues in Salt Lake County, and that I've learned it's a strong point to build coalitions, that we cannot act in silos. We cannot act as islands unto ourselves, that we must partner and we must reach across the aisle to do the big, bold things that are going to have the impact for our children tomorrow. And I know that these are the things that are not only bold, but they're attainable as well.
Thank you. Mr. Ye, you touched on this a little bit in your opening statement. You want to go ahead and elaborate on what makes you the best candidate for this position?
The honest answer is I'm not. I'm not a politician. I'm a chef. I'm a dad. I work at Amazon. But before I left the house, my mom gave me this. It's a tube of chapstick that says Huntsman's Cancer Institute on it. She got it when she was taking chemo with my dad. My dad is buried in Tooele City Cemetery. That's why I ran. My kids looked at me and said, "Dad, we're afraid," and the family motto is, if you're not willing to do something about it, don't complain about it. So here I am. I am willing to learn. I am willing to fight for you, and I am not willing to make hard choices or decisions, but I'm also willing not to. So I'm not the best candidate, but I'm here for the city, and I'm here to do the best that I can.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, why are you running for this position? What makes you the best candidate for it?
Why I'm running for this position? I'm a hometown boy, and I love Tooele City. And as I was changing my career path and was going to have more time, that I thought that I want Tooele to always be here and be a place that my children and grandchildren and my family and my friends will want to be. And so and as friends asked me to run for this position, I wasn't sure. But I can tell you that I might not be the best candidate for this position. And really, as you think about yourself and am I the best guy for this? But I'm not sure that I am. But I can promise you one thing, that I will work as hard as anybody else. And I will work for you and work for the citizens of Tooele. And as things happen in the city council, and as you make decisions, and as we make decisions, that we will do what's best for Tooele, but the best that we can for the citizens of Tooele City. And I will always communicate with you and with all of you. And anytime you need to talk about anything, I am there. But I promise I'm a hard worker, and I will do what is necessary for this position, and I will take the time that's needed to be a good city councilman. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Goches, what makes you the best person for this position?
Thank you. As a veteran on the Tooele City Council and a member of the Planning Commission, I bring the experience, the knowledge, and the skills needed for this position. I'm a positive leader who understands the importance of cooperation and teamwork. One of Tooele's missions is the preservation of Tooele's unique characteristics. And I have really fond memories of growing up and coming to dance lessons on the corner of Main and Vine Street in Tooele. That building was owned by Wendell Weiniger. It's now at the Zacatecas Mexican restaurant. And the Downtown Alliance has provided for them the opportunity to apply for a grant for that building to be renovated. It has a beautiful ballroom upstairs, and it's not being used right now, but I went to dance lessons there for many years. Next door to that building was the KDYL radio station. And I was young enough that I remember when the railroad tracks went down Vine Street, and engine number 11, the steam engine, would rumble down the track, and the radio DJ would take the needle off the vinyl and give an announcement while the railroad track went down, or while the steam engine went down the road. I love Tooele. I love the unique aspects of living here. It's my desire to make this a place that people can be proud of, that my kids can have a home here and be able to afford to live here. I have demonstrated my ability to be a volunteer and a public official, and I do a good job for you if given that opportunity. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Graff, the last word is yours. Why did you decide to run for this position? What makes you the best candidate for it?
I ran for this position because I care about the city I live in. I care about the people that I've gotten to know, and it's the future for my children. Why wouldn't I want to be involved with that? But to say that I'm the best candidate would be to ignore Mr. Parker's knowledge about homelessness, Mr. Ye's hard work for his kids, Mr. Hansen's small business knowledge, Ms. Goch's dedication, and Mr. Brady's hard work. I'm not the best candidate. I'm learning from these great candidates every single day. I still have much to learn, and that is for you to decide, not for me to tell you. What I offer is I'm an attorney. I am paranoid about lawsuits, and so something unique about me, is I don't want us to get sued. I don't want us to pay out money for things that we shouldn't have to. That's something unique that I bring, and that I bring to the table. What doesn't make me unique is how much I care about this city, because I've heard from my fellow council members and these candidates, and I know they care too. What I want you to know is that I will work hard. I'm not just going to say yes or no because it's easy. I will work with my fellow council members. I will examine the issues, and I will listen to you all and bring it to the table for an ultimate vote. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your attention, for your time, and for your willingness to serve your committee. And I'm going to turn the time back over to Mayor Nguyen.
Thank you, Chris and Berna, for being here to help us tonight. Thank you so much to each one of you. You are very special people. I've been in those seats. It's uncomfortable, but you all did a great, great job. I'm very, very proud to serve with you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for being here tonight and for everybody that has watched online. So for those of you who are here at City Hall, we're going to invite you to stay after in the rotunda for a few moments if you have additional questions that you want to ask the candidates. They will be here for you to ask some questions. And for those of you that are watching virtually, whether tonight or at a later date, all of the contact information for all of the candidates are on our website, their email addresses and their phone numbers. So you can call and talk directly to them or send them an email. Our website is tooelecity.gov, G-O-V, tooelecity.gov. Thank you again for everyone for joining us tonight. Please, please be sure to get out there and vote before or on November the 21st. Good night.